A NAS, or network attached storage device, can be a great way to learn a bit more about computing and networking, whilst also giving you somewhere to store some or all of your data. Today I thought I'd show you my server and what I've got running inside of it. Of course, it's not just all about the hardware. Software is a key component of any system, and I'm running UnRAID. I won't be going into too much detail on the software today, but if you do want to know more about UnRAID and how I'm using it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel. My name is Ben, and this is my UnRAID server. Starting off with the case, I'm using the CodeGen 4U Rackmount server case. I was a little limited when it comes to the server case choices, and unknown to me when I bought it, I actually have a short depth rack. Not the shortest, but it's not full size, and so I had to choose something that would fit, especially as I can't remove the back of my rack to fit something larger in. The case is pretty basic and doesn't have any of the nice features that you can get on some, like hot swap hard drive bays, something that I'd definitely like to have in the future to make maintenance just that little bit easier. I do like that the case is black, and that was something that I had to have when buying a case, as of course it matched my rack. On the front it's got two USB 2.0 ports, a power and hard drive status LED light, as well as a power and reset switch. At only 500mm deep, I think it has quite a lot of space for its size. Inside it has room for 8 3.5-inch hard drives, two 2.5-inch drives, and two 5.25 bays for things like disk drives. Fan wise, it has a 120mm fan at the front, which is located in front of the hard drive bays, and two 60mm fans in the back. I have of course put Noctua fans in because there's no other option, right? As I had some spare, I've also thrown in a 140mm fan at the front to try and increase the airflow throughout the case, and it's not mounted anywhere, it does just sit in the case. For the case, I paid £62, and for that price, I think it's pretty good. I've had it for nearly 2 years, and I'll likely have it for another 2. For the motherboard, I'm using an Asus Prime X570 Pro. I know it's not a server motherboard, but if you've ever looked at the price of them, you'll likely understand why I've gone down the consumer route. This has got all the features I want and need, including plenty of PCIe expansion, 2 NVMe slots for Gen 4x4 SSDs, and of course RGB. I honestly don't care about the RGB, it's inside a server rack and so I never see it, and it certainly wasn't a requirement when picking up a board. In fact, this wasn't the first motherboard that I've used in this server. It's gone through quite a few revisions, and I'm thinking of making a video talking you through how I've upgraded my server in the past. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that video. When I bought this, I paid £245, which at the time of purchase was a pretty good price. At the end of this video, I'll list my components along with their prices, and maybe even a total of how much I've paid, if I can bring myself to do that. I'll also be putting them in the video description, along with Amazon links to the products. Please note, these are affiliate links, and if you decide to purchase, you will be helping to support the channel, as I will get a percentage of any qualifying purchases. CPU wise, I've got the AMD Ryzen 7 3700X, an 8-core 16-thread CPU. I do try and take full advantage of all the threads this CPU has to offer by running both VMs and Dockers in UnRAID, and thanks to its Wraith cooler it does tend to stay pretty cool in my case, but that might also be due to the thermal Grizzly Kryonaut thermal paste. Shout out to DeBauer. I've only ever seen it reach around 70 degrees when fully maxed out, so I'm quite happy with that. I've paired 32GB of RAM, Corsair Vengeance LPX 3200MHz. And as much as I'd like to put more RAM into the system, one of the drawbacks is the support for XMP when running 4 sticks of RAM on this line of AMD CPUs. I did at one point have 48GB of RAM with XMP enabled, and the server kept crashing. A little bit of research later and it was all sorted. I ended up taking the 16GB kit out for another PC build, and it's been smooth sailing with the 32GB of RAM ever since. I think I'd only ever put more RAM in if I upgraded my CPU, and I don't see myself doing that for at least a little while. What is a storage server without any storage? Well, that would just be a server. So let's go through what I've got in here. For hard drives, I've got four 4TB Seagate Ironwolf NAS drives, a 2TB Western Digital NAS drive, and two 500GB Seagate Barracuda drives. With parity, this gives me a total of 15TB of storage, but I'm actually starting to fill that up, and at 13TB I think I need to purchase some larger capacity drives, mainly because I don't have any more bays to fill with 4TB drives. This will mean replacing the 500GB drives, but with nearly 5 years of power on hours, I think they've earned it. I can guarantee you that a server upgrade video will be coming, so keep your eyes peeled for that. For SSDs, I've got a 1TB Samsung 980 Pro, a 256GB Samsung 960 EVO, thank you for that, Connor, and they're both NVMe drives which work alongside two 240GB Western Digital Green 2.5-inch SSDs. I've actually got these set up as two separate cache pools, one of which I use for my Docker containers and VMs to ensure I get the best performance. Powering all of this is the Corsair RM850x, a power supply I had from my crypto mining days. This is a really good power supply which is 80 plus gold rated and has a 135mm fan, something that's definitely needed in this case as it draws in internal air rather than external. I know it's overkill for what I've got in my server, but it gives me plenty of room to add or upgrade components as I need. I have previously thought about putting a GPU in the case, but unfortunately the case isn't big enough to support the size of something like a 3070 Ti, so maybe in the future. I did have a total of 5 PCIe cards in the server, but whilst filming I actually decided to remove one of them. I've got an LSI SAS 2308-8i HBA, expanding the number of hard drives I can have in this case. This has support for 8 drives, and I actually try to run all of my SATA drives from this card rather than using the SATA ports on the motherboard. Next to this, I've got 2 Intel Pro 1000 gigabit Ethernet cards, which I use as dedicated Ethernet ports for my Docker containers. The next card, which I've actually since removed, was an NVIDIA GT 710, which I had in there to help me troubleshooting the crashing that I was experiencing on my server. The 3700X doesn't have an integrated GPU, and so I needed something cheap and small that would fit in the server. As I fixed the issues that I was having with my server, I've decided to remove it to reduce both heat and power draw on the server. Before I turned the server off to make this video, I had just over 2 months of uptime, and so I don't think I've got any crashing issues anymore. The last card and the latest addition to the server is the Intel X520 DA2, which is a 10GB SFP Plus card. I've put this in as I'd like to start editing my footage directly off the server. There are a couple more parts I need to buy to get ready for this, but I'm sure once I've got them, there'll be a video on the channel. And that is a full overview of my server as it stands today. Like I've said, I do have a few upgrades in mind, and when I decide to pull the trigger on them, I'm likely going to be making a vlog style video to show you the upgrade process. If you've enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments, as well as hitting that like button, which really helps others find the video. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.